Vice Chancellor's procession, brand new directors of academic programs and institutes, deans of schools, faculties, the dean of students, the Provost College of Medical Sciences, the Provost College of Postgraduate Studies, the inaugural lecturer, and principal officers of the university. Is a star-studded Vice Chancellor's procession. Indefatigable, Leonard Silk and Vice Chancellor, Professor Adoba Omoyegi, SAN, ably represented by the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academic, other principal officers of our great university, the provosts, deans, directors, the inaugural lecturer, and her husband, professors emeriti, other esteemed scholars in the auditorium and administrators, my Lord spiritual, greatest Uniband staff and students, invited guests, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's a huge pleasure to welcome you to today's inaugural lecture, which is the 348th in this series. Please put your hands together for Uniben. The lecturer today is an intellectual par excellence and a lady of exceptional candor, Professor Faith Ighodala Akinibosun. And the topic, Microbial Mischief or Mastery, the Magic, Mystery, and Measurable Impact. The Registrar of the University, Mr. Ademola Babola, is now invited to formally introduce the representative of the Vice Chancellor and other scholars on the procession. Mr. Registrar.
I think we should give the PRO some encouragement. I don't want to give myself too much of encouragement because the Vice Chancellor will have to approve before that can be given to me. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I want to plead in the usual way that I be allowed to continue to abide by the protocol as duly established by the University's PRO, Dr. Mrs. Benedicta Haniri. And I want to also say that all courtesies duly extended. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor today to present to us the principal officers of this university, particularly the leader of our community at this particular time, and we'll continue to say it for the sake of having the record put straight. The 11th substantive Vice Chancellor of this university assumed duty on 2nd December 2024. And ever since, it's a flight that has taken off and is sailing very smoothly. And the number one citizen who is directing the affairs is a very distinguished scholar, one in the legal profession. Apart from being a professor, he has also climbed to the topmost in the legal profession as a senior advocate of Nigeria. He has worked in different areas of human endeavor, including within the university serving in capacity as head of department, and then even along the unionism, he was secretary of one of the most vociferous unions, staff union on campus, Academic Staff Union of Nigeria Universities. Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause. At least the ASU that has been helping to shape the face of Nigerian education system. And he worked in the National Assembly for over 7 years as director in one of the very important arms of that particular institute, Nigerian Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILT, right there in the National Assembly. I'm talking of no other person than our very distinguished Vice Chancellor, Professor Edoba B. Omoyege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Well, the Vice Chancellor is very much with us because this program is beamed live, is live streamed, and oftentimes when some of us are not around, we carry our phones or tablets and we follow what goes on. I know he's following us very well here, but physically he's being represented here today by a man who combines scholarship with tradition. He's a distinguished member of the palace, the very revered palace of Oba of Benin, as a chief. And he's also a very distinguished scholar who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Victor Oge Igbeneweka. who is standing for the Vice Chancellor. The VC is also assisted, as we know, by the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, who is a very distinguished scholar in his own capacity too. He has been a professor, full professor, for upward of almost 25 years and is still kicking, still very performing. Professor Christopher Osubo, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration. We have another very distinguished academic, this time from the Faculty of Pharmacy, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Ekewa Campus, who is combining this time around religion also with scholarship. Is the one leading the Muslim community on this campus and beyond. Professor Bunyamin Ayinde, Deputy Vice Chancellor Ekewa Campus. There are two distinguished principal officers who are being looked up upon today. And if you see the entourage of the Vice Chancellor today is so filled up, God will help us to really present all of them as quickly as we can today. Because we have two attractions, two principal officers assumed duty this week by Monday. We've been in this process since October last year, or even before then. We have acting officers for more than 1 year for each of those positions. The first one is the keeper of our treasury, the man who is going to be the one who say no money, no money. But we pray that on his own time, it will be more, there is money, there is money. So we won't have the issue of no money again. And he has promised that he came from a private university recently and is going to transform the treasury of this university, working with Vice Chancellor. Mr. Osage Osifo is the new bursar of the university. To clap very well for him so that money will continue to flow. And of course we have with us here today a brand new university librarian, but this time around we are switching to the female gender. I know some people like the former registrar of this university will be pleased to welcome her into the fold of this university. I know Mr. Ojoman will be very happy that we are presenting a female this time around. We went the way of men, but we are now coming back to the way of women. Professor Jane Abba, the new university librarian. Let me take the liberty of this, the Vice Chancellor has given me to tell us that both of them are highly distinguished. Council found them appointable after very rigorous exercise. And we are very sure that the university is in another phase of advancement. So once again, let's welcome them with a round of applause. And as quickly as possible, we have two distinguished provosts. First, Provost of the College of Postgraduate Studies, Professor David Zeko. The Provost of our very reputable College of Medical Sciences, Professor Wilson Sado. And of course, we have the #1 student of this campus, who is a distinguished professor and someone who has served in different capacities. Recently, the chairman of security committee. Everywhere you will see him, and his ubiquitous nature has propelled him to be the dean of student affairs. Professor Freddy Ekaise. He is a man who can eat groundnut with any of the students anywhere. You see him chopping, he can take biscuit from them any particular moment. We have the host dean of today, who has a very, very unique initials, TOT, Imobe, the host dean, Faculty of Life Sciences. Of course, we have the man who is always oppressing all of us. Some of you will think that I'm a very tall man, but when I stand beside this one, I become a very short man. He's the Dean Faculty of Agriculture. The food in that faculty is so much can prepare somebody to be as tall as Professor Abolagba. The Dean Faculty of Agriculture, Professor C.O. Emokao. And of course, we have the Dean Faculty of Arts, a very distinguished Reverend gentleman, Professor O.B. Osadolo. The Dean School of Basic Medical Sciences is represented by Professor G.D. Forai. And of course, we have another Osadolo in the house. One Osadolo just stepped out, but we still have another Osadolo loading here. Dean School of Basic Medical Sciences, Professor H.B. Osadolo. And we have the potent Dean, Faculty of Communication, being represented here today by Professor Ambrose Utenu. We have another new faculty, Faculty of Computing and Information Science, Professor Mrs. V.V.N. Akokuma. The Dean School of Dentistry, a very reputable dentist who smiles very well all of the time, Professor Mrs. Niboku Ize Iyamu. The Dean Faculty of Education, who claims to be the oldest of all the deans in the park, Professor Kingsley Omogiwa. And one of the not too long appointed or elected dean, the Dean Faculty of Engineering, Professor K.O. Ogwede. The dean who is always coming from Russia, and we are lucky to have him today, he didn't get hanged up in Ukraine, and his dress is always different each time. Professor Raphael Egato Irugwe, Dean Faculty of Environmental Sciences. The Dean Faculty of Law is represented here today by Dr. Elizabeth Iyamu Ojo. And we have the Dean School of Medicine being represented here by Professor N.O. Enaruna. And we have the Dean Faculty of Management Sciences and Acting Capacity, Professor Mrs. Esther Evairo Osage. And we have the Pro-Tem Dean, Faculty of Nursing Science. There's no Mrs. in this, there's no Miss in this. He's a man managing the affairs of nursing science. So if you say a nurse, what comes to your mind is a lady, but this time around is a man. Professor F.U. Okafo. And the potent Dean Faculty of Optometry, woman who has held the powerhouse of admission in this university, but now transiting to deanship, Professor Mrs. E. Ogre. And we have representing the Dean Faculty of Pharmacy, Professor Patrick Ibinadua. The dean that I will call next is when I call his name, people will always laugh, but I think I've improved a little over that. The Dean Faculty of Physical Sciences, Professor E.O. Ayowi. I'm still learning, and learning continues until one drops the whole thing. We have also with us the potent Dean Faculty of Science Laboratory Technology, Professor J.O. Osanwesi. And of course, we have the Dean Faculty of Vocational and Technical Education, Professor E.E. Uko Aviomo. I hope the camera will have to be adjusted so that we pick them. Otherwise, if you can't find them straight, blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. Just believe they are there. We have the Director Center for Gender Studies being represented here today by Dr. Mrs. M.O. Akirile. Please let's encourage them by clapping very well for them. We have a director who is also celebrating today because he's attending this program is the first time in that capacity. Professor B.O. Edegbai, the Director of Center for Entrepreneurship Development. Congratulations. And we have the Director Center for Educational Technology, Professor Hassan Oehena, is also in the park there. And also the Director, Teflon Center of Excellence for Aquaculture, Food and Food Technology, Professor Mrs. Isioma Obo. We have also with us the Director, Center for Sustainable Development, is also a brand new director. That's Professor Mrs. F.I. Okungbowa. And we have the Director of Advancement and Alumni Relations, a former orator and always an editor in this university, always in the media, projecting issues of alumni, Professor Eddie Eragwe. We have also the new director, Advanced Digital Engineering Center. We used to have a lady there. This time around we have a brand new Professor R.S. Eboziaye. Congratulations. And we have also the Director of Research, Innovation and Development, Distinguished Law Professor N.F. Unuibe. We have the Director of Student Guidance and Counseling Center of this university, Professor Mrs. O.N. Ahie is also here. Please, let's give her a round of applause. The Director of the Center of Excellence focusing on mushroom research and technological innovations, Professor E.O. Akpaja. All the way from Ekewa Campus, Director, Institute of Public Administration, Health Services Management, Dr. John Osaghai. Dr. F.O. Woere is the Director, Center for Maritime and ICT. Let's give him a round of applause. Leading the Vice Chancellor Central is the Deputy Registrar in charge of Senate Matters, Mrs. C.I. Egiato. Please, let's give all of them a round of applause beside the stage. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my singular honor to call on the Acting Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academy is standing in for the Vice Chancellor to present the Vice Chancellor's address.
Our dear Vice Chancellor, Professor Edoba Bright Omerigi, SAN, is unavoidably absent. The reason he has directed me to come and read his address for this occasion. I therefore crave your indulgence to read the address as presented by the Vice Chancellor. Principal officers of the university, Provost, College of Postgraduate Studies, Provost, College of Medical Sciences, the deans of faculties and schools, directors of institutes, members of council here present, professors emeriti and members of Senate, my Lord, spiritual and temporal, staff, and students, distinguished invited guests and friends of the university, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, greatest Nigerian students. It is with delight I welcome you all to the 348th in the inaugural lecture series of the University of Benin. Today's lecture is the 8th to be delivered in the Department of Microbiology, 50th in the Faculty of Life Sciences, and by the grace of God, the 19th to be delivered in my tenure as the Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our lecturer for today. She is Professor Mrs. Faith Igudeyala Akinibosu. The title of our lecture is Microbial Mischief or Mastery, the magic, mystery, and measurable impacts. Professor Mrs. Faith Igudeyala Akinibosu was born on the 14th day of March 1972 to the family of Mr. Sunday Abiodun Asowata and Mrs. Grace Asowata of Ugeudu village, Umuode local government area, Edo State, and from Ugefa royal family of Benin Kingdom, both of blessed memory. She attended a Daike primary school from 1977 to 1980 and later Ubo Primary School to obtain her first school living certificate in 1983. She attended Uselu Secondary School from 1983 to 1988 and obtained her West African School certificate in 1988 from the same school. She gained admission into the University of Benin to study microbiology, where she obtained a BSc Honors Microbiology degree, second class upper division. Professor Mrs. Akinibosu participated in the one-year mandatory National Youth Service at Plateau State Water Board, Lamiga Treatment Plant, Jos, from 1995 to 1996. In order to broaden her knowledge, she obtained the following additional degrees from the University of Benin: MSc Environmental and Public Health Microbiology in 1998 and PhD Environmental and Public Health Microbiology in 2010. Professor Mrs. Akinibosu joined the services of the University of Benin in 2001 as an assistant lecturer in the Department of Microbiology and rose through the ranks to the position of a professor in 2019. She has held several administrative positions within and outside the University of Benin, such as Head, Department of Microbiology, Faculty of Faculty of Science, Edo University, Iyamo, 2016 to 2017. Acting Dean, Faculty of Science, Edo State University, Uzare, 2017. Chairman, Senate Committee on Assessment of Quality of Teaching, in Edo University Amo 2017. Head of Department Microbial, University of Benin 2022 to date. Faculty of Life Sciences representative to the Faculty of Engineering, Board of Studies, University of Benin. Professor Mrs. Akinibosun is a member fellow of several professional bodies and associations, which include Fellow, Linear Society of London, United Kingdom. Member, Society for General Microbiology, United Kingdom. Member, Society for Microbial Ecology, United Kingdom. Member, the Bioflake Club, United Kingdom. Member, Society for Applied Microbiology, United Kingdom. Member, American Society of Microbiology. Member, Third World Organization for Women in Sciences. Professor Akinibosun is a recipient of the following awards: Exeter Research Scholarship, University of Exeter, United Kingdom, 2006. School of Bioscience Award, University of Exeter, United Kingdom, 2006. Society for General Microbiology Postgraduate Students Conference Grant, 2008. Federal Government of Nigeria Scholarship, University of Benin, 2003. Best student for 5 consecutive sessions, Uselu Secondary School, Benin City. 1983 to 1988. And of course, the inaugural lecturer for today is an outstanding leadership award winner from University of Benin Alumni Association, Uniden Branch. Professor Mrs. Faith Akinibosun has successfully supervised 5 PhD theses, 84 MSc projects, 71 postgraduate diploma projects, and several undergraduate projects. She has over 100 scientific publications in books and journals. She has served as external examiner, assessor, resource person to several federal and state universities across Nigeria. She is also an editorial board member and reviewer to several national and international journals. She has attended several local, national, and international symposia, workshops, and conferences. Professor Mrs. Faith Igudela Akinibosun hobbies are reading, dancing, playing indoor games, including watching movies. It will interest you to know that Professor Akinibosun is also a football player. She is a devout Christian, an ordained minister in the Redeemed Christian Church of God. She is happily married to Professor Henry. she is happily married to Professor Henry Adewale Akinibosun. Professor Adewale is of the Department of Plant Biology and Biotechnology, University of Benin, and the union is blessed with 4 lovely children. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to invite Professor Mrs. Faith Godeyala Akinibosun to deliver our inaugural.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to stand on the already existing protocol as quoted by our amiable PRO. I welcome you all to the 348th in the inaugural lecture series of this university. I dedicate this inaugural lecture to God Almighty for making today a reality. Indeed, this is the day that the Lord has made. And I also dedicate it to my late parents who would have loved to be here. But to God be the glory. This inaugural lecture is the 8th to be delivered in the Department of Microbiology and the 2nd to be presented by a female professor in the department. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I will say my love for biology was by default. You know, as every first child in the family, our primary assignment is to be in the kitchen, especially when you are a female. So I was always in the kitchen, doing the cooking, slaughtering the chicken as usual, and I fell in love with that habit. And in the process of dissecting chicken, slaughtering it, as a first child, I would call my siblings, my younger ones, and begin to teach them all parts of the chicken. And that made me to say, I will read medicine. Funny enough, you know, at that level, primary, secondary level, when you are a science student, it said that you want to read medicine or you want to read engineering. And for arts, law. But as God will have it, I got admission to read microbiology. Jeez. I didn't know what microbiology was, really. And that time, if you ask me what's microbiology, I would just say the study of germs, because that was the little understanding we had. And to me, germs, you know, as it is, it's negative. So I saw microbiology as negative. And I decided to change to medicine in 200 level. Lo and behold, that did not happen. Because as time went on, I found out that microbiology was a very interesting course. And that was when I knew. That was when I knew that at the primary and secondary levels, career guidance was limited. Students and pupils do not have enough knowledge at that level to be able to, you know, decide what to read. And today I'm glad to be a professor of environmental and public health microbiology. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chancellor, for giving me this opportunity to present the 348th in the inaugural lecture series of this university titled Microbial Mischief or Mastery, the Magic, Mystery, and Measurable Impact. What are microbes? Microbial, from microbes. Microbes are microorganisms that we find everywhere in the environment. And in microbiology, we study these microorganisms under different areas. Medical microbiology, which is also branded animal pathogenic microbiology. Environmental and public health microbiology, the area where I fall into. Food and industrial microbiology. plant pathogenic microbiology, and microbial genetics. The role of an environmental microbiologist is to determine microbial life processes in air, water, and soil, and their interactions with humans. He also carries out environmental impact assessment and public health risk assessment. Therefore, my contributions in this area as an environmental and public health microbiologist have been to determine positively or negatively the magic performed by microorganisms. I call them magic because they happen suddenly, varying in types and outcomes. Therefore, I have isolated and evaluated these microbial actions with a view to understanding this mystery behind the mischief or mastery. And then, coming to public health risk assessment. You know, sometimes I tell my children, if you are an artist, your mind is very free. Because as a scientist, when I see something, the first thing that comes to my mind is, what is the risk? What is the risk, that this will give to me? But if you are an artist, you are naive. You don't you enjoy your life, risk or no risk. Do you understand? And you know that in our daily diets, we have protein. You cannot eat naked food. It's either there's chicken, there's beef, or there's fish. And we decide to analyze the risk involved in this raw chicken to start with ready-to-eat foods. You know, sometimes during processing, you wash your raw meat, you buy biscuits, with that same hand, you are eating the biscuits. You will not cook the biscuit again. Foods that you do not cook again, they are ready to eat. We all have that habit. We get our raw meat, our raw fish, our raw chicken, and at the end of the day, it's either we are eating popcorn, biscuit, or any other ready to eat, even salad. And we found out that of the 222 samples of Salmonella species isolated from raw chicken meat, 41 isolates of them were multi-drug resistant. Multi-drug resistant ESBL producing. What this means is that when you get an infection caused by this Salmonella species, that infection will be very difficult to cure because of its multi-drug resistance. Ogwana Kiniboso 2019. And then we were not satisfied. We decided to go further to determine the heavy metal content of this chicken, especially in the southern part of Nigeria. And we found out that chicken from Warri had the highest, highest heavy metal content. Forgive me if you are from Warri. As compared to Edo State and other southern parts that were, part of the research. We also decided to check long-term consumption of this, whether consumers will go down with cancer. And in our risk assessment, as published by Ogwan Akinibosu 2020, we found out that for every 10,000 persons that will continue to consume this contaminated chicken, there will be at least a cancer case. And then, in addition to the pre-existing Salmonella species, we had unique pathogenic Salmonella species that we isolated. And we decided to put them in the United States Gene Bank for public access under the following accession numbers, as shown on the screen. Ogu, Akinibosu, and others, 2021A. And we had genes that were responsible for this resistance, this strength. And we found that these genes were not only found in chicken from open markets,
They were also found in chicken in grocery shops. You know, some people will say, now who got money, now they go supermarket. Make I buy for open market. You stand the same risk. Ogu, Akinibosu, and others 2021B. And then we decided to also see the extent of the strength of this Salmonella species. And we decided to characterize their biofilm formation properties. You know, biofilm formation means, are they able to attach? And we found varying characteristics from strong, moderate, to weak and non-biofilm formers. Therefore, this chicken did not only contain multi-drug resistant salmonella, they were also biofilm forming. How wicked. It means that when you want to treat them, you need new generation antibiotics because of the multi-drug resistance and the ability to form biofilms, as published by Ogu, Akinibosu, and others, 2021C. We have table 1 illustrating the heavy metal analysis in chicken meat, as explained earlier, and table 2 showing the mean values of these heavy metals in the various certain states assessed. And then we decided to move on to fish. If you do not have money to buy chicken, you will have money to buy point and key. True of us? True. So many of us like catfish, whether in the boiled form or smoked form. And we found out that the pisciculture system in Nigeria was heavily dosed with multi-drug resistant bacterial species. You know, people that get involved in fish pond business, they are not trained. Everybody wants money. They just carry the bag, carry the feed, carry the antibiotics, and start dosing. And at the end, you have a fish pond heavily loaded. And we humans, we are the receiving end in the food web. May God help us in Jesus' name. We also found novel pathogenic bacteria, which we also put in the US database for public access. Akinibosu Animade 2019B. Consider that young man there, the way that's a bag of feed. You know, see the way he's pouring it. No measurement, nothing. He's pouring it for me and you to eat. Akinibosu Animade 2018. And table 3 shows the frequency of this multiple antibiotic resistance, as shown in nursery and the grower ponds. You know, when you are doing fish pond, you put fingerlings in one of the pond, then the bigger ones in another. In all these cases, they had similar incidence of multi-drug resistance occurrence of microorganisms. And then we decided to do a stochastic quantification of the concentration of these pathogens in the catfish, as shown in table 4, and also to assess the way we try to prevent infection, mitigation protocols. Do you wash your meat with salt water, or do you use boiled water? How do you process your protein before consumption? In all these mitigation protocols, 75% reduction was noticed in the baseline body of diarrhea, which was very good, especially for children under the age of 5. But 75% is not good enough. It's failing one, failing all. And in spite of these mitigation protocols, we still had residual pathogens that were responsible for 8% residual risk of illness, as shown in table 5. And this was of public health concern, as published by Imade and Akinibosu 2020. Table 4 shows the stochastic quantification, and then the table 5 shows the quantitative outputs of this residual risk of illness, as discussed earlier. And then we went to the open markets. We just did a random investigation, and we find high microbial load in all these catfishes sold in open markets and even the grocery stores, and they all exceeded WHO standard. Akinigbosu and Ezewele 2018. And then, enough of what you put in your mouth. What about your interaction? Everyday life. Many of us who like pets. Some have birds, dogs. We used to have parrots because of my children, but I didn't like it, but I just had to bear. And then some even, keep cats. And then this time around, we use dogs for the southern part of Nigeria. And we carried out public health risk assessment of Staphylococcus aureus and its methicillin-resistant strains on the 4 of these companion dogs. We call them companion dogs because some of them have these dogs for security. They walk us everywhere. We feel safe when we are with these companion dogs. To the extent that we allow them to share our bed linen, we allow them to share our kitchen, we allow them to share our sofas in the sitting room. My dear, draw boundary. Draw boundaries. See this young man now. See the way he's hugging the dog. That same jacket. He fall on his bed linen. Adeola Akinigbosu and others 2024. Adeola Akinigbosu and others 2022. You can see another family here. See the way they are caressing that dog. Very soon, popcorn will enter. They want to watch movie now. See the setting. Popcorn will enter. After rubbing that dog, the 4, with all this MRSA on the 4 of the dog, all of them, they are going to eat popcorn. Can you not see that the mercy of God is very high? Very big. And our chi-square test revealed that there was a significant association between human-dog cohabitation and acquiring zoonotic infections, as published by Adeola Akinigbosu and others 2024. And upon examination, we did not only find MRSA, we also found the enterotoxin-producing strains. Enterotoxins are heat stable. They can stand 100 degrees for a while, which makes them very dangerous, as published by Adeola Akinigbosu and others 2023. And then we also found new strains of Staph aureus, which we, deposited in the gene bank as Adeola Akinigbosu 204, Adeola Akinigbosu 232, 239, 237, and they are all under the following accession numbers as displayed on the screen. It means, therefore, that anytime in the future, by way of research, you stumble across any of these strains, you are going to see Adeola Akinigbosu 231, 204, as the case may be, novel, registered with our name. Is that not wonderful? Clap for me now. And then we also, deposited the enterotoxin proteins in the database as published by Adeola Akinigbosu and others 2022. We decided to see the relationship between these new strains and already existing Salmonella strains by way of carrying out phylogenetic analysis. It shows you how close how close these organisms are. And figure 1 reveals the phylogenetic tree from that analysis. And then we also decided to distinguish between Edo and Delta as by how much of MRSA and the enterotoxin producing strains that they have. And we found out that in both cases, Edo State had more of MRSA and the enterotoxin producing strains than Delta State. I was wondering, does it mean that Edo people are richer than Delta people. I don't know, because it is rich people that, is it not rich people that rear dogs? If you don't have money, you can't rear dog, because dogs eat very well. True or false? Talk now. Dogs eat very well. It is when you can feed yourself that you can now rear dog. And we find Edo people. Time for Edo people now. This was published by Adeola Akiniboso and others 2022. And we also decided to check the mean prevalence. The mean prevalence of the enterotoxin producing strains in the contaminated ready-to-eat food by season. And we found out that they were more prevalent in the rainy season than in the dry season, as published by Adeola Akiniboso and others 2022. And then we also discovered that for every 10,000 servings or for 10,000 cases, there was a case of staphylococcal food poisoning in Edo and Delta states, both in dry and in the dry season. While in the wet season, for every 10,000 persons that consume the contaminated food, 831 persons in Edo State and 702 persons from Delta will most likely go down with staphylococcal food poisoning during the rainy season. Adeola Akiniboso and others 2023. And then we went further to go back to a cheaper protein. If you do not eat chicken, you do not eat fish, you will eat beef now. Is it not so? Like I said, your food can never be naked. Or do we eat naked food? We don't. So we started from the Benin abattoir to check the hygienic situation. If you look at the screen, my student had to pretend to be one of them. You see the situation of our Edo State abattoir. See the meat that me and you will go to buy. On the floor. Thank God she's even wearing gloves. That is how they get it. That is the environment it comes from. We did not only check the quality of the abattoir, we also checked for the prevalence of E. coli 0157 in undercooked and well-cooked beef. Especially these days that gas is expensive, kerosene is expensive. Buying food from a restaurant is risky. They don't have the patience to cook the beef. So in this case, we use temperature, and we found out that for undercooked servings of food, 333 persons stand the risk of falling ill when they consume undercooked beef, as shown in table 6, 7, and 8. That's table 6, showing the concentration of E. coli 0157 and its relative proportions in the cattle carcass during processing. Table 7, the doses of E. coli 0157 and the probability of exposure in servings of beef. And table 8, showing the probability of illness, as explained earlier, as published by Akiniboso and Imade 2015, 2016, 2018, Akiniboso and Ogbogbo 2018. We also decided to check the environment, the external of this abattoir. And we found that the soils, the receiving soils of the abattoir, they had diverse species of public health concern, as published by Akiniboso and Ayejuyoni 2015. And then, my major work in environmental microbiology, as seen in my PhD research titled Characterization and Quantification of Gene Expression in sulfate-reducing bacteria in crude oil and produced water. Here, we characterize crude oil. Being the mainstay, the main strength of Nigeria, we decided to check, this kind of research is supposed to be done, routinely, so that it's what we depend on to survive. We make sure that our crude oil, remains of high quality. Thank God we were able to check and then we were able to prefer solutions as in prevention of production of hydrogen sulfide. We found unique solvidogenic bacteria as in Petrotoga mexicana and Petrotoga olerra, being able to produce sulfide. And this was published by Kiniboso and Lapiscott 2012. And a successful phylogenetic analysis is displayed in figure 2. And then we also carried out, a modified way of determining the concentration of hydrogen sulfide produced by a spectrophotometric method. Akiniboso et al. 2011. We did not stop there. We decided to analyze the functional genes and quantify them, as published by Akiniboso and Botti 2012. And we also modified the flow cell system, in which we decided to look at the process of these functional genes at laminar flow. Laminar flow means slow flow as compared to turbulent flow. And this was successful. Akiniboso and Botti 2012-2016. And then the successful functional gene analysis did not end there. We decided to do cloning. Yes, we decided to have clones and see how these clones will behave, as published by Akiniboso and Atoyan 2016. Akiniboso and Atoyan also checked for the relationship of these clones with other existing members of sulfur-reducing bacteria and sulfur-oxidizing bacteria, as shown in figure 2 and figure 3. We also went further to do some bioremediation studies. This time around, we used Warri Creek. We decided to read Warri Creek of crude oil pollution using indigenous hydrocarbon degrading fungi and bacteria, as published by Akiniboso and Ashegbaye 2018. And we also went further to read pesticide contaminated farmland of pesticides using indigenous microorganisms, as published by Akiniboso and Omorojo 2015A, 2015B. We did not stop there. We also carried out bacteriological and physicochemical properties of diesel-contaminated soil with a view to identify its indigenous organism for future use. Akiniboso and Owundiwe 2012. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, in all these microorganisms, they do. Is it not so? We decided to now stop this magic. We decided to control the magic, curtail them, not using chemicals that may have adverse effects, but using, antimicrobial properties from plant extracts with their bioactive ingredients, as published in Akiniboso and Akiniboso 2009, and all these Akinibosons, with a view to managing the mystery, the mastery, and eliminating the mischief. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I have been able to supervise 5 PhD students. Dr. Imade, a senior lecturer at Igbineda University, Dr. Ogu, senior lecturer at Federal University, Lokoja, Dr. Oyetayo, lecturer at Achievers University, Owo, Ondo State, Dr. Adewumi, lecturer at Rufus Giwa Polytechnic, Owo, Ondo State, and Dr. Mrs. Morenike Adeola, lecturer at Dennis Osadebe University. In all these, check the ratio, 4:1, 4 males and 1 female. Females, we need to be encouraged. True or false? Mona, they encourage us now. Thank God, my 6th PhD student will be defending her thesis next Friday. She's a female. And I have 2 others that have submitted their synopsis, a male and a female. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, from the foregoing, I want to recommend that it is obvious that there's misuse and abuse of antibiotics both in the poultry farming system and in the pisciculture system. Therefore, monitoring operations by the federal government should be in place. And when indiscriminate contact with companion dogs is carried out, Both hands and other body parts should be decontaminated. Indiscriminate use of antibiotics should be stopped, and then continuous monitoring of MRSA should be done so that when new strains come up, we quickly, try to arrest their effects. And then Edo and Delta indigenes should be cautious. We are not saying we should not love dogs or you should not have pets, but like I said earlier, draw boundaries. Must you hug your dog? Must they share your kitchen? Should they sit on your couch? Draw boundaries, for God's sake. And then there is need for improvements in food safety management system, especially in all these Edo State abattoirs. More so, intensive surveillance of these catfish ponds. Maybe training of catfish farmers is needed so that they will not endanger us. In conclusion, Mr. Vice Chancellor, I have demonstrated that in this lecture, we need to be mindful of what we eat and how we eat them. We need to check our habits and our lifestyle. Microorganisms are enemies and friends, but we need to be able to control them, to be able to stop their magic or use their magic to our own advantage. Mr. Vice Chancellor, I want to thank you again for giving me this opportunity to deliver the 348th in the inaugural lecture series of this university. May God bless you. May your shadow never grow less. I thank principal officers for supporting Mr. Vice Chancellor. May God support you all. I acknowledge Professor A.R. Anao, under whose tenure I was given employment, Professor E.A.C. Wanze, under whose tenure I was given training leave abroad, Professor F.F. Orumese, under whose tenure I was appointed full professor, Professor Lilian Salami for supporting me all through her tenure as Vice Chancellor. Can we give her a very round of applause? A bigger round, please. I thank Professor J.A. Kundai of blessed memory, my MSc supervisor, for making sure that I did my PhD in the UK, Emeritus Professor N.A. Rafuna for standing as my academic father and ensuring that I did not stumble. God bless you, sir. Professor Mrs. O.I. Nablele, my academic mother, many of you do not know. This woman nurtured me from childhood. That is the secret that many people don't know. I was still wearing pants without shirt when she was hugging me in my father's compound. Let us put our hands together for her, please. Thank you very much, Ma, for nurturing me and for all your advice and mentorship. Special thanks to Professor N.E.J. Ore, immediate past Dean, Faculty of Life Sciences, my childhood friend and brother, under whose tenure I was appointed head of Department of Microbiology. May God bless you and your family. My appreciation goes to the current Dean of Life Sciences, Professor T.O.T. Imobi, my friend. Clap for him very well. Another Deans of the Faculty of Science and Life Sciences. I appreciate colleagues in the Department of Microbiology, both academic and non-academic. Big thanks to my postgraduate students, past and present. I acknowledge professors in other departments and other universities, far and near. I'm also grateful to my primary school teachers. Special mention, Mrs. R. Ofeke, Mr. Mosigo, Mr. P.C. Owama. Thanks for all the encouragement and for all the keep it ups. They really helped. I appreciate my secondary school teachers. Special mention, Professor Mrs. Ofuani and Professor Mr. Agboinfo, now in Faculty of Education, University of Benin. My principal, Mrs. Adagbasa, for constantly celebrating me in the General School Assembly. May God bless you. I'm also grateful to my first degree classmates we call ourselves MCB 95 because we graduated in 1995, whereas our session was actually 93-94 session, ASU strike. I thank my brethren, fellow ministers, and pastors in the Redeemed Christian Church of God and Anglican Communion, Reverend J.E. Amasiho, Reverend Akaelu, Reverend Kekabo, Reverend Kimbolade, Pastor Kilami, Pastor Ladipo, Pastor Tijani, Pastor James, good women and excellent men of RCCG, and our daddy and mommy G.O. for your endless prayers. I'm most grateful to my parents, my late parents, Mr. and Mrs. S.A.O. Asowata, for their love, care, and dogged determination to train all their 8 female children and only son against all odds. You may not know the strength of this sentence. 8 girls and a boy. I grew up at a time when the dog girls were flying to Italy. And people told my parents, you people are very lucky, oh. You have 8 girls. Send them to Italy, let them be giving you money. And my father said, no, lie. He will never do that. He insisted on training us, and today, the least degree that my siblings have is a master's degree. To my lovely siblings, I say thank you all. I appreciate my royal bloodline, the Ogefa dynasty of Benin Kingdom, both present and in diaspora. You have been very, very supportive. I thank my in-laws for their love. If not be you, wherefore thee? To my Superman, my hero, my sweetheart. My MSc classmates and friend of 5 years before becoming my darling husband. I say thank you. You stood by me when the going was tough, and you made me tough to get going. Thank you for your love, your smiles, your jokes, and for being a nice dad to the kids. May we reap together as we have sowed together. My children, Yemzi the Great, Toski the Law, Bobo and Goke, I love you all. Thank you for being good children. And we have the pictorial illustration of all this hard work. The inaugural lecturer is seen here, receiving the Exeter Research Scholarship from Professor Steve Smith, Vice Chancellor, University of Exeter, United Kingdom. Inaugural lecturer and our first supervisor in the UK and a husband. Inaugural lecturer and members of postgraduate board in the UK. Inaugural lecturer and our first degree classmates and their supervisors at UK conference. Anthem to wine, all work and no play, made Jack a dull boy. And then my postgraduate students and I, God bless you all. I'm sure we can do better. More. Showed the superhero. He only just smiled. He did not laugh. Oh. Please put your hands together for our superhero. May I now respectfully invite the representative of the Vice Chancellor to summarize the lecture. Thank you, sir.
I know that we all enjoyed the lecture. Now this is a summary of the lecture that was delivered by explain the summary behind the mischief or mastery of microbes in the activities and the impact of other activities. To the microbes, it is a survival mechanism which could be harmful or beneficial to humans. Factors that could enhance the mischief or mastery are often provided by man unknowingly, according to the inaugural lecturer. For example, the misuse and abuse of antibiotics and indiscriminate contact with pet dogs, as discussed in this lecture, are possible ways that could encourage antibiotic resistance and cross-contamination of items. In situations of indiscriminate contact with pet dogs, people are advised to thoroughly decontaminate their hands or other body parts, including contaminated food, by pet dogs. Indiscriminate use of antibiotics should be stopped to prevent the development of staphylococcal bacterial resistance. The inaugural lecturer strongly suggested that according to her, it is therefore very necessary to improve on our risk mitigation protocols and intensify monitoring operations by regulatory bodies and agencies. This is with a view to preventing diseases. Healthy lifestyles should also be adopted to prevent interactions with potential pathogens. As the saying goes, according to our distinguished inaugural lecturer, stop them before they stop you. Let's put our hands together again for Akinibosu.
Thank you, sir. The lecturer, please step forward to be decorated. And we invite the superhero and the children to join her as the representative of the Vice Chancellor decorates her. And so, while that is being done, we want to specially welcome you all again as we recognize the husband of the lecturer, Professor Henry Akinibosu. Please put your hands together. The children, Adeyemi Akinibosu, Adetokunbo Akinibosu, Adebowale Akinibosu, Adegoke Akinibosu. Please clap for them. Other family members are Mrs. Ewosa Igbinovia, Mr. Jeff and Mrs. Iriagmonse Ahigbe, Mrs. Rosaline Okolie. We welcome also the former acting registrar of our university, who is the Executive Director, ITV, Radio and Television, my dear sweet auntie, Lady Celerina Bojomo. Please put your hands together. Welcome Emmanuel Okonkwo, Esquire, Henry Abua, Esquire, Professor Emeritus Raymond Eliho, Professor Emeritus Nosa Erafona, former DVC Ekawan Campus, Professor Joel Abolagba, immediate past university orator, Professor Mike Omoekberale. We welcome the former Dean Faculty of Life Sciences, Professor Jerry Ori, the former council member, Professor Mrs. Maureen Ebomoyi. We welcome Professor Julian Umbebu. Welcome Professor Ngozi Okolie, Professor Eigiato Adayonfo. We welcome you. We welcome Professor Barry Omogbai, Professor Mrs. Lucy Iraikweme. We welcome also Professor Mrs. Agnes Awari Toma, Professor Unkolika Aneku, my dear friend. Professor Martins Aisien, we welcome Professor Mrs. Onaiwe Nabulele, we welcome Professor Solomon Omoniwo, I welcome very specially Dr. Reverend Obiebo Utaninyowa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I welcome also Professor Uwa Edosalan, welcome Auntie, welcome Professor Emmanuel Aibohan. It's on that note we conclude the inaugural lecture, the 348th of the University of Benin. But just before we go, we shall take first the Uniben anthem and the third stanza of the national anthem. Please rise. Standing for the procession to leave the auditorium. We welcome Mr. Osahon and other Uniben henchmen, Uniben alumni henchmen here in the auditorium. We welcome you specially. McDonald.